Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
It's Saturday the 21st of December. I'm Ciara Evans, and this was a week that saw Labour under pressure as growth in UK economy stalls. Dominique Pelicot sentenced to 20 years, Putin bullish about victory in Ukraine, and Daniel Craig staying caffeinated.
Grab a cup of something hot, put up your feet and get up to speed on the 7 biggest stories of the week. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7.
It's news,
but not the news.
It was not the best way to end the year for the Labour government as GDP figures released last week saw the UK economy shrink by 0.1%. In a blow to Labour's plans for growth, the figures from the Office for National Statistics showed that the drop was driven by a decline in construction and production. It's the second consecutive drop and suggests that there will be no growth in the fourth quarter. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, was disappointed by the figure, as was former Tory Education Secretary Gillian. Bloody good job, Keegan.
The person who's doing badly is the first 100 days of a Labour government. Sunak was absolutely right to predict that this government would destroy our economy within 100 days. All of the things they're doing are the things that worry me most.
With concerns over growth in the European economy and the prospect of a trade war with the United States if Donald Trump begins applying tariffs, the economic picture wasn't looking rosy. James Reid, the CEO of Reid Recruitment, said the signs are worrying.
The economy's cooling, and we can see that very clearly, and it's been cooling for several months since the summer. That worries me because when I've seen that in the past, it's been an indication that recession is around the corner.
There was no good news for Labour on the economy again on Wednesday as inflation rose for the second month in a row, hitting 2.6%. The increase was driven by motor fuel and clothes, while airfare prices dropped slightly. But Chancellor Rachel Reeves insisted it's nothing to be too alarmed about.
That is comparable to other countries around the world. I recognise that the cost of living crisis continues to bite. That's why in the budget we increased the national living wage. So we recognise the challenges that families remain under and are taking action to address that ongoing cost of living challenge.
Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith is concerned that the changes in the budget are having a negative effect on the economy.
My real worry is that every day the contours of the damage being done to our economy are being revealed, and I am genuinely really worried for the economy, and I'm worried about the economy that we might one day inherit.
As expected, the Bank of England didn't make any changes to interest rates on Thursday. They will now stay at 4.75%. However, Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey was sounding gloomy, saying the economy failed to grow at all between October and December. That means mortgage rates will remain high, and Prime Minister Keir Starmer was in front of the liaison committee in the Commons on Thursday afternoon. He was quizzed over the Labour plan to build 1.5 million new homes and insisted that the plan is to back the builders and not the blockers to drive growth and avoid the delays of the past. And even with gloomy economic forecasts, he was still sounding bullish about growing the economy by the end of Labour's 5-year term.
High sustained growth, that was what we set out in the manifesto. That's what we recommitted to in the plan for change. That'll obviously be a line on a graph, a really important line on a graph. Sure. But I also want to make it clear for voters, for the public, that what that translates into for them is feeling better off.
This week saw more developments both at home and abroad in the ongoing war in Ukraine. On Monday, President-elect Donald Trump held a press conference in Palm Beach where he took the time to discuss his plans for Ukraine.
Everyone's being killed. It's the worst carnage that this world has seen since World War II. It's got to stop. We're going to be talking. We'll be talking to President Putin, and we'll be talking to Zelensky and representatives from Ukraine. We got to stop it.
On Tuesday, Ukraine special forces struck deep in the heart of Moscow. The CBU's target was the general in charge of Russia's chemical, biological and radiological weapons unit, and he along with his assistant were killed when a bomb concealed in an electric scooter exploded outside his apartment. Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov was placed under sanction by the UK in October for his role over the alleged use of chemical weapons in Ukraine. And Defence Minister John Healey didn't sound too disappointed about his death.
This was a bad man, and so the Ukrainians have declared him a legitimate target. They've taken responsibility for the action that they've undertaken.
Kirillov is the most senior military figure killed away from the front lines. An angry Russian reaction saw Deputy Chairman of Russia's Security Council Dmitry Medvedev promising repercussions for all involved.
Everyone here understands what happened and what needs to be done. Our enemies have already rushed to publish information about their involvement. The investigators must find the killers in Russia, and we must do everything to destroy the patrons in Kiev.
Russia continued to lash out on Wednesday as Medvedev threatened the editors of the Times newspaper for an editorial which said Lieutenant General Kirillov was a legitimate target. He said as far as Russia is concerned, the miserable jackals at the Times are now all legitimate targets, a statement condemned by Foreign Secretary David Lammy. Medvedev also threatened NATO officials supporting Ukraine, and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says Europe has to take Russia's threats more seriously.
Anyone attacking us will be confronted with the full NATO onslaught, fighting back and making sure that he or she who tries to attack us will never do this again. But I'm not so sure about 4 or 5 years from now.
Thursday saw Russian President Vladimir Putin host his annual press conference, which lasted for 4.5 hours. Putin appeared to be in good form, taking questions from journalists, callers and pensioners, and sounding confident about Russia's special operation in Ukraine. He was insisting that Russia will keep both Crimea and the 4 regions of Ukraine his troops currently occupy, but he was less clear about when Russia would recapture the areas of the Kursk region currently occupied by Ukrainian forces.
I'll name a date, a day or two, and they will go, by all means, to meet that date. They won't reckon with the losses, and we can't do that. A day or two, in this case, doesn't matter much anymore, but they will be definitely driven out, and after that, we can assess the damage.
He spent some time talking up his new hypersonic Oreshnik missile too, offering to have a high-tech duel with the US and even threatening to strike Kyiv, while boasting that air defences would not be able to stop it. This outraged Ukrainian President Zelensky, who was in Brussels for a NATO meeting.
He says we will, for example, hit Kyiv with the Oreshnik, the new missile, and let them try intercept it, and with air defence, and let's see what happens. Do you think this is an adequate person? Just scumbags.
This year has seen a long list of those wronged by the government over the years finally reaching some sort of justice and, in most cases, compensation. From the infected blood scandal to the post office IT scandal, the government has been busy cleaning up historic messes. One of those historic scandals is the case of the so-called WASPy women. They were women born in the 1950s who were shortchanged on pensions and have been campaigning for compensation. A parliamentary ombudsman had recommended compensation of between £1,000 and £3,000 each, but on Tuesday, Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall said there's no prospect of any financial offer.
The report itself acknowledges that assessing the individual circumstances would have a significant cost and administrative burden. It's taken the Ombudsman nearly 6 years to investigate the circumstances of 6 sample complaints.
The issue affects about 3.6 million women, and campaigners have been looking for £10,000 each. But Prime Minister Keir Starmer says it's just not practical or possible to make a payment of up to £10 billion.
I do understand, of course, the concern of the WASPy women, but also, of course, I have to take into account whether it's right at the moment to impose further burden on the taxpayer.
Wednesday saw the last Prime Minister's question time for 2024, and Starmer came under repeated pressure about his government's decision. He maintained that 90% of those impacted knew that the charges to pension rules were taking place and that the government can't afford another multi-billion-pound payout. But Labour MP and Mother of the House, Diane Abbott, wanted answers.
I understand the issue about the cost, but does the Prime Minister really understand how let down WASPy women feel today?
Israel announced last Sunday that it will close its embassy in Ireland. It comes after the Irish government joined South Africa's case at the International Criminal Court, accusing Israel of committing genocide in Gaza. Taoiseach Simon Harris defended the government move despite the Israeli foreign minister saying Ireland had crossed every red line. Meanwhile, life appeared to be returning to normal in Syria, with schools reopening in Damascus after a day of celebration last weekend. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken sounded optimistic about life for Syria post-Assad as the US establishes diplomatic relations with rebel leaders.
America and our partners have an important stake in helping the Syrian people chart this new path. We know that what happens inside of Syria can have powerful consequences well beyond its borders, from mass displacement to terrorism.
Still to come in the Standout 7, Germany's ruling coalition crumbles and sentencing takes place in Pelicot Trial.
Right after this.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Welcome back.
The winter of discontent continued in Europe on Monday as Germany's government collapsed after a no-confidence vote went against German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. The chaos in German politics follows the near collapse of the French government, where President Emmanuel Macron appointing 73-year-old François Bayrou as the new Prime Minister. There's also been disruption in Romania, which saw the second round of the presidential election cancelled and democracy protests continuing in Georgia. Back in Germany, the ruling coalition had already crumbled, so Chancellor Scholz called the confidence vote to speed up the process of new elections, which are now scheduled for the end of February. He says whatever happens, his priority is the German people.
We are a country that pulls together every day. A country that values cohesion over division. A country that has its best days ahead of it. I will continue to give my all for Germany every day.
51 men were sentenced on Thursday for their part in the rape of Gisèle Pelicot. The case, which has shocked France and the world, revolved around Gisèle's husband Dominique, who drugged her and then invited men to their house to rape her. He was sentenced to 20 years, while the other men, who were aged between 26 and 74, were largely sentenced to between 3 and 15 years. Her husband admitted to the rape and to not just drugging his wife, but also hiding cameras around his house and selling images of his adult daughter and the wives of his sons. Addressing the media outside the court, Gisèle said she had waived anonymity to fight for victims who remain in the shadows.
I wanted, when I started on the 2nd of September, to ensure that society could actually see what was happening, and I never have regretted this decision. I have now faith in our capacity to collectively take hold of a future in which everybody, women and men, can live together in harmony, in respect and mutual understanding.
Director Luca Guadagnino is hot right now. His big breakthrough was Call Me By Your Name, but he's picking up a lot of critical acclaim for new movie Queer, which stars Daniel Craig and Drew Starkey. He's also tipped to make a reboot of American Psycho with Austin Butler next year. Daniel Craig spilled the beans on what it was like on the set of Queer last weekend as he joined Graham Norton on the couch. He described a neat production hack on set that ended up giving him the shakes.
There's a sequence where we do a dance. We were doing outside on the back lot, and it was gravel, and we had to sort of roll around for like 2 nights. I was like, we're going to get cut to pieces. So we got back the following night, and someone had put like 50 pounds of coffee grounds to look like dirt.
Dirt, yeah.
Like dirt, which is great, soft and lovely, but you can absorb it through your skin. So by 6 o'clock in the morning, which was a night shoot, you're like, yeah, I'm good night.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.
At Leidos, a brilliant mind is smart, but a brilliant team is smarter. A ship that finds enemy subs is smart, but an autonomous fleet, that's smarter. Defending against cyber attacks? Smart. Stopping attacks before they start. Smarter. And using AI tools is smart. But integrating trusted mission AI into your technology is smarter. We're not just making technology solutions in national security and health. We're making smart smarter. Leidos.